A study published in the Scientific American in 1973 found that a condor, a South American vulture, is one of the most efficient animals for transporting their body weight on Earth. It's the largest flying bird in the world by combined measurement of weight and wingspan. Humans have mediocre energy efficiency for moving our body weight around when traveling by foot, but a human on a bicycle is the most efficient animal on Earth. Steve Jobs really liked this idea.
The most efficient animal on the planet is a condor. The most inefficient animals on the planet are humans.
They made a small adaptation for the movie here. We're actually not that inefficient.
But a human with a bicycle becomes the most efficient animal. And the right computer will be a bicycle for the mind.
While this research article from 1973 is pretty old, it's still very interesting. But it's hard to compare animals' efficiencies with each other, because what exactly is efficiency defined to be? Should you ignore all the pollution we generate to maintain our high standard of living? Just the fact that we heat up water to wash ourselves every day, even though we don't necessarily need to do that to survive, is actually pretty odd when you think about it. So we need to lay some ground rules first. We will keep it as simple as possible and compare different areas of efficiency. You can compare efficiencies on many levels. The ones we'll look at in this video includes thermal efficiency, diet efficiency, or transport efficiency. You could of course consider more factors such as time efficiency for learning new skills, so that we as humans can give ourselves a little pat on the back and feel smart and special. In this video we will look at 3 of these factors to see how the human race compares to other animals. We all know that animals can be classified as cold-blooded or warm-blooded animals. It should be clear what each of these terms mean. Warm-blooded animals must spend energy to maintain their body temperature, while cold-blooded animals don't necessarily need to do that. This means right off the bat that cold-blooded animals have an advantage for thermal efficiency. So let's narrow down our comparison even more by only looking at warm-blooded animals. As a fun fact, because there almost always exists edge cases for something you think is a fact for sure, not all mammals are warm-blooded. There are actually some animals that can drop their body core temperatures significantly, like the Arctic ground squirrel. The Arctic ground squirrel can drop their body core temperature to as low as -2.9 degrees Celsius without freezing solid. These animals are by no means cold-blooded the same way fish, reptiles, or amphibians are, but they do have a much more relaxed approach to regulating their body temperature. Amongst warm-blooded animals, there are several ways to protect yourself from spending too much energy to maintain your core body temperature. You can have a layer of fat or blubber close to the skin. You can grow body hair to restrict airflow around your skin. Or you could go the human route and just cover it up with some sort of material. I won't go into too much detail, but there are essentially 3 mechanisms in which you can lose thermal energy to the environment: conduction, convection, and radiation. Convection is the method that would cause you to lose the most amount of energy to your surroundings. This is why you normally feel cold when it's windy outside. Having a lot of fur has more benefits other than just making you look very cute. It helps you stay warm in windy or wet environments, but it can also cause you to overheat more quickly. This is because there is a principle in fluid mechanics called the boundary layer, which means that air sticks to the surface of a material. So if you have thick fur, it will reduce the airflow around your skin, which makes you lose less energy to your surroundings due to convection. Under this metric, polar bears are the best designed to conserve energy and heat. They can live in some of the coldest parts of the world by utilizing their thick fur and heavy layers of blubber. And what's more, polar bears' fur is made of long, oily guard hairs and shorter insulating hairs. The long hairs are between 5 and 10 centimeters long, and they are hollow, almost like small tubes of glass. The oily layer provides excellent waterproofing and insulating against cold waters, snow, or rain. This is finally an answer to
question: what kind of bear is best?
It's a ridiculous question.
As expected, cold-blooded animals like spotted turtles are much more energy efficient. I'm only mentioning cold-blooded spotted turtles because they rely on the sun to provide energy for them to function. They can survive very long and cold winters by staying at the bottom of ponds and streams. What makes them special is that they control blood flow to their vital organs to only supply oxygen and nutrients to their essential organ systems. This allows them to stay submerged without having to breathe or eat for over 5 months. It is way more efficient to get your source of energy directly from plants as compared to eating other animals. If you consider the fact that animals constantly spend energy to stay alive, move around, and in the case of warm-blooded animals, to keep their core temperatures, it's easy to see how it's much more efficient to just eat the source of energy these animals would eat: plants. Not all animals are evolved to only eat plants, so this is not a case that all humans and animals should be vegan. It's just to say that we would be much more energy efficient in our diets, well, to be vegan. So, going against what I said before about polar bears being energy efficient, polar bears actually have a big disadvantage here. Their diet mostly consists of harp, hooded seals, and they scavenge on the carcasses of whales, walruses, and narwhals. While you can argue that animals that scavenge on the meat of animals that have already died are efficient, and I would agree that they are more energy efficient than animals that catch live prey, animals that eat grass or algae have a much more energy efficient diet. It should be mentioned that animals that eat plants must usually eat a lot more food per day than carnivores. This is because meat usually contains a lot more nutrients per kilogram than most plant-based foods. So you need to digest a lot more food to get the same amount of energy. If you want to look at the most efficient animals in terms of their diet and slow metabolic systems, sloths are the perfect candidate. Sloths usually don't even move more than 38 meters per day, and when they do, they usually only crawl at a pace of 1.8 meters, not per second, but 1.8 meters per hour. They are so slow that moss and algae starts to grow on their bodies. It should be mentioned that two-toed sloths are usually omnivores, but they mostly eat plant-based diets. Back to what we talked about in the beginning of the video. A man on a bicycle is the most efficient animal on Earth. A bicycle is no longer the most efficient mode of transport for humans. I'll make another video going over transport efficiencies at some point in the future. But like the Guinness ad goes, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. It's difficult to compare all animals under the same metric. We have no idea how efficient animals could actually be if they had bicycles designed for them. When we compare transport efficiencies, aquatic animals have a clear disadvantage, because it's way harder to move through water than it is to move through air. But on the other hand, you need to combat gravity when moving on land, or you need to generate lift when flying through the air. The jellyfish, with its dual propulsion system, is the most efficient aquatic animal. On land or air, we have mentioned before that according to the Scientific American study in 1973, the condor is the most efficient land animal. But instead of just leaving it at that, I want to point your attention to a fascinating paper published by Lewis Halsey on terrestrial movement energetics. So I'm not recording this on my fancy microphone, I just wanted to add some commentary to this paper. This is the main point of the paper. This graph shows it's a log-law graph, first of all. But it shows a linear relationship between the mass and the net cost of transportation for most animals. That's very interesting. And what I found particularly interesting is that this net cost of transportation is independent of the speed in which the animal walks or runs, which is something I didn't expect to find, and I was actually looking for a source to prove my bias that this is not true, but it seems like it is actually true. Your net energy cost of travel is independent of the speed at which you walk or run. It's hard to make a clear decision on what the most efficient animal is. At the end of the day, you can't really judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. If you spotted a mistake in the video, please let me know down in the comments and I will keep track of possible fact corrections in the video description. I plan on using physical experiments to showcase engineering principles in the future. However, that is very difficult due to the current global situation and I'm stuck in a foreign country for the foreseeable future. But anyway, if you would like to stick around for any of that, please consider subscribing. And leave a like if you enjoyed the video and I hope to see you next time.